but really workforce development through apprenticeship programs at Wake Tech, and we've made quite a bit of headway in the last year and a half. So, John, you want to talk about apprenticeships and what they are?
Yes. So here at Wake Tech, we are expanding the areas of apprenticeship. So traditionally, when we talk about apprenticeships, everyone thinks immediately of the construction skilled trades, which is absolutely correct. It is basically the foundation that WakeWorks apprenticeship is building off of. And when we look at that, we consider those the electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and even the HVAC or air conditioning technicians. And as we look to expand our programs in plumbing and pipe fitting and masonry, those are really the traditional areas. But apprenticeship goes beyond that. And we're looking at apprenticeship now in EMT, IT generalist, as well as automotive systems technology, the automation in mechanical engineering technology, as well as electronic engineering technology. So we have abilities here to provide apprenticeship career pathways, gaining in certificates, as well as diplomas, and also in 2-year degrees. So Pam, why don't you talk a little bit about this pre-apprenticeship versus an apprenticeship opportunity?
Thanks, John. So the model that we've developed is really to bring students into Wake Tech into our pre-apprenticeship program. Pre-apprenticeship can be a lot of things, but basically it's educational and pre-vocational services. So we are bringing students into Wake Tech at no cost to them. They are actually taking about a semester of coursework in many of our beautiful simulated labs at Wake Tech. And we are giving them assistance with applying to apprenticeship programs. So the way that looks is they come to Wake Tech, they get a WakeWorks scholarship, they become a WakeWorks pre-apprentice, they take their semester of training, and then we're basically setting up hiring events for them at the end of their semester to meet with our employers who want to hire them as registered apprentices. And we're going to talk more about what really registered apprenticeship looks like. The only hard and fast rule about pre-apprenticeships is it has to show a direct and clear pathway to a registered apprenticeship program. John, would you have anything to add to that?
Yes. So as I'm working out in the community and I'm working with our different business partners, the first thing I like to do is really talk about setting up apprenticeship programs, but quickly followed right behind that is a discussion around those pre-apprenticeship programs to allow the students to be taking the related instruction or the classroom and lab at Wake Tech that will provide them some of that theoretical learning that employers are looking for. So pre-apprenticeships are going to become even more important as Pam and I reach back into the Wake County public school system and start to work at the high school level, because believe it or not, here in Wake County, some of the high schools already do have pre-apprenticeship opportunities for those high school students, which would lead to an apprenticeship opportunity in the future. So pre-apprenticeships are great, and they are going to be that earlier pathway into an apprenticeship program.
And I do want to mention, John, just so everyone's clear, that our pre-apprentices do not get paid. They do get their education paid for and their supplies, but they do not actually have a job at that point until they complete their pre-apprenticeship program and are interviewed and hired by a registered apprenticeship employer. So what is an apprenticeship? A lot of people ask us this, and John talked about this a little bit, but it's basically a combination of on-the-job training at the place of employment while they're also taking their coursework at Wake Tech. So they may go to school 20 hours a week and work 20 hours a week, or it can be a combination of some of, anything that would equal that. When they actually get hired as a registered apprentice, They are actually a paid employee at that place of employment. John, anything to add?
Yes, so it's this is not to be confused with an internship or even work-based learning. This is a more longer-term employment opportunity as an apprentice with the company. So they are actually hiring you as an apprentice. You're getting paid by that company, and you're also going to be getting from them the benefits, so medical, dental, that type of additional benefits that a regular employee would get. So that's what I'd like to add about apprenticeship, which is in most cases 2 to 4 years long to complete the program. So it's not your internship. A lot of people confuse this with an internship, which is short-term as well as work-based learning. Here at Wake Tech Community College, that's usually 1 semester. So this is more of a longer term commitment. You are actually hired as an employee with the company who's providing that apprenticeship opportunity.
And John, we have a question in the chat. That would be a part-time converting into full-time. Could you comment on that?
Typically, you are a full-time employee of the company. So you are working full-time. Like Pam said, some of the hours could be 20, could be 30. In some cases, with most of the skilled trades, those hours are 40 or more. You can actually get overtime. However, when I'm working with the employers, I do emphasize the fact that we can't have too much work being done on the job, and which would harm doing the related instruction at Wake Tech. So we have to bear in mind, and all of our participating partners are very aware and astute to the fact that there is related instruction, classroom instruction going on at the same time they're working. So typically these are full-time associates that are working for the company.
So we hear people talk about apprenticeship, and then we hear people talk about registered apprenticeship. So I just want to talk about that a little bit, because registered apprenticeship programs are actually have oversight by the U.S. Department of Labor. We actually have our own state approving agency here in North Carolina called Apprenticeship North Carolina. But it's really a combination of that learning with structured on-the-job training, which they're getting paid for at that point. But a registered apprenticeship requires at minimum 144 hours of classroom-based education for every 2 hours of on-the-job learning. Now, if you did the math, you would see that that's about a year of working and going to school. But many of our employers have longer programs. For example, in our electrical program, our apprentices actually stay at Wake Tech for 4 years, because they're basically working during the day and they're coming to school at night, or 2 nights a week typically. And so it can be a combination of many things. We also have some youth apprentices who come to Wake Tech 1 full day a week to take their coursework, and then they work at their company of business the other 4 days. So it can look a lot of different ways, and we have a lot of flexibility with our classes to help our employers figure out a schedule that's really the most conducive to their apprentices. John?
Yeah, so I'd like to add to that too. So when you think about classroom hours, these are not CEUs, if you will. These are literally the number of hours per day or per week that the student apprentice is spending in the classroom and or lab or online. So there's those, you can do it online, you can get your related instruction in the classroom in the lab, but it's literally 144 hours in one of those types of environments that's counted. So when we do the CEUs for those folks that are doing the diploma and the degree, we use a different type of calculation to determine the number of classroom hours, which is typically not an issue with diploma and degrees. And on the workforce con ed side or continuing education side, the non-credit, so our just so we know, the annual hours typically are closer to 200 in the programs that we have here at Wake Tech. So we more than qualify and meet for that minimum.
So we have another question in the chat. This person's saying, you said that one of these programs will include EMS, or did I hear that wrong? No, you did not hear that wrong. We do have EMS apprentices. They actually go into the paramedic degree program, and they are actually interviewed, and many of them are hired by Wake County EMS services. So we have a great relationship and partnership with Wake County EMS, and they've agreed to interview our students at the end of their pre-apprenticeship, which is the EMS portion, before they bring them on as full-time paramedic apprentices. So we do have that currently going on. So to be a registered apprentice, you must have a progressive wage scale. And what that means is, as the student learns, they earn. So the wage scale gives incremental raises to the apprentice as they gain more experience in education. Typically, we stage that out from the beginning of the apprenticeship to the end of the apprenticeship program, and we have a calculation that we use to say, when this person graduates from their apprenticeship program, this is what they should be making at your company. John, you want to take this one?
Sure. So when I'm working with the business partners, we want to make sure that it's clear that these apprentices, just because there are student apprentices, are not to be taken advantage of, if you will, with much lower rates. So in order to make that process really clear, a first-year apprentice cannot make less than 50% of a journey worker's rate. And typically what a journeyman's rate or journey worker's rate is established by our participating partner at someone who's currently working at the company who would be working like at the end of the program. So if it's a 4-year program to become an electrician, we typically use an electrician who's been with the company 4 to 5 years, and we set that at the journey worker's rate. And then the first year student apprentice cannot be making less than 50%. So if that rate was $20 an hour for the journey worker, the student apprentice could not be making less than $10 an hour, which is 50% of that. And in Wake County, we know $10 an hour for an apprentice is really, I'm not seeing that type of low pay for these programs. So it's very nice to be able to start a job and an education and have not only your job tasks set and forth, but your wage scale is also set up from the beginning of the program to the end. And those are really minimums. And I know a lot of companies who are very happy with their workers will actually pay a little bit more than their progressive wage scale, because it's a very competitive workplace, as we all know.
We have a great question in the chat. It says, at what point does the student enter or put in an application for the curriculum or credit side? I will tell you that we started 284 apprentices in mid-August, and 72 of those are credit students. The credit students are actually taking the automotive technician, the mechanical engineering, and we've got some that are starting in the paramedic program. So we have students both on the credit and the non-credit side at Wake Tech. John, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, so those students actually go through the registration process to register as a Wake Tech student, and they work closely with the registration or registrar's office to provide all the information to apply at Wake Tech and provide the information that's needed in order to become a Wake Tech student. And then that allows you to begin to register for the appropriate classes that will need to be taken for that particular program, whether it's EMT or automotive systems technology, electrical technician, etc. And we do have career coaches that we have for WakeWorks apprentices that help everyone along the way. So they are assigned very early in the process. When you apply as a WakeWorks apprentice, you will get a career coach, and they're going to help you walk through the different steps that are needed to get involved and eventually enrolled in the related instruction for those apprenticeships.
And we have a question, what are the requirements for joining the programs? Basically, you go to our WakeWorks website and you fill out an application. And at that point, we'll start working with you. We are having some of our apprentices do some testing, but depending on what your background is and if you have other college credits and that sort of thing, we'll make a determination at that point on how we will move you forward. So we're not screening people out. This is a very inclusive screen people in program. So I want to talk a minute about high school youth apprenticeships, because a lot of people don't realize that a high school student can actually enter an apprenticeship at the age of 16 if it's a registered apprenticeship program, and that employers can hire you through temporary staffing agencies if needed to get them to the age of 18. And so we have some exciting work going on at Wake Tech that will be new in this space, but we've started working very closely with Wake County Public Schools to really set up direct pathways from high school into Wake Tech programs. We have a great tuition waiver in North Carolina that a lot of people don't know about. This happened about 5 years ago when working with our General Assembly. They wanted to do something for our employers in North Carolina to offset the cost of high school to youth apprenticeship programs. So there are tuition waivers for high school students who enter a pre-apprenticeship or apprenticeship program while they're still in high school. If they graduate and they get into a registered apprenticeship program up to 120 days from the day they graduate, they remain eligible for the waiver for the entire duration of their apprenticeship program. So this is a great resource we have for our high school youth in Wake County, in which they can come to Wake Tech through WakeWorks apprenticeship and actually not have to pay any tuition at all. And then we have other funds made available through our county commissioners to help pay for other things that the students might need, like tools, books, uniforms, once they get converted into a registered apprenticeship program. John, you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Thank you, Pam. That was a great explanation. I would like to add too that we have a great consortium here right in the triangle called the North Carolina Triangle Apprenticeship Program. It's about 10 companies that have joined together. It includes automotive system technology, so it has 3 automotive dealerships, as well as 7 manufacturing or advanced manufacturing companies that will visit the various Wake County public high schools and make presentations to those juniors who are rising seniors to become pre-apprentices in their program. So what we're hoping to do is continue to support that and be able to help expand the occupations provided for such a program. So getting to have seniors as pre-apprentices, as we've been talking about, and then those companies hire them typically right as they're graduating high school as full-time employees, and they'll continue their education here at Wake Tech in their degree program.
And just, I'd like to reiterate that benefit continues for the length of their apprenticeship training term. So the entire time that they're at Wake Tech, even after they are post-high school graduates, that waiver continues to be in effect for them throughout the duration of their apprenticeship program. Great resource we have here in North Carolina. The tuition waivers cover tuition and registration fees, but it doesn't cover parking, labs, book fees, campus resources, ancillary fees and expenses, but we do have other funding sources that we can tap into to help cover those additional costs for that student. I like these fun facts a lot because I think it really gets young people's attention, but completion of a registered apprenticeship program provides a credential of a 2 or 4 year degree. Now, going back to the question about how students may get into the credit side, we encourage our students to keep going. So if they are on the non-credit side and they become a certified electrician, but they would like an electrical degree, we can actually help them bridge over into the curriculum program for electrical. So there are a lot of ways to be right with this. John, anything to add?
No, that's great. Just we need to be able to take advantage of this.
And I always tell the young people the average starting salary upon completion, and I underline that to make sure everybody understands, upon completion of a registered apprenticeship is a starting salary of $50,000. And as John said earlier, these registered apprenticeship programs, when these young people are getting hired by these employers, they're also getting benefits, which is incredible. And so another little fun fact I want to talk about is this one, because you know, a lot of companies now have great 401k programs, and by completing a registered apprenticeship program, that person's going to make $300,000 more on average over the course of their career. What I always say to young people is if you take that $300,000 over the course of your career and put it in your 401k program, you're going to have a very robust retirement account at the end of your career. We have more than 150,000 employers and labor management organizations that participate in apprenticeship programs. At Wake Tech, when we started this endeavor, we had 23 employers. We now have 67, and we're adding more every month. And so we now have employers coming to us and saying, how do I get to be a part of this? I really need good employees. And so we are talking about starting another youth consortium similar to North Carolina Triangle Apprenticeship Program in the carpentry and custom woodwork occupation. So we're working with some employers there who want to work together in a consortia to actually go and recruit high school kids into that occupation. I think this is a pretty telling number too. Nearly 400,000 apprenticeships are available in more than 1,000 occupations. And John will tell you that we are working with really big companies right now in the IT space to identify some IT occupations that we would like to add as apprenticeship programs at Wake Tech with very, very, very reputable companies here in Wake County. So we're adding to those every day. Here's something I tell employers, that apprenticeships result in increased workforce skills, safer working habits, productivity, and morale. We actually embed safety courses and soft skills courses into their pre-apprenticeship program. They actually have a career coach, as John said earlier. We bring some folks in to help them with their resume writing and practice interviewing skills. So when we get them in front of our employers, they're in a much better place. Our employers have really bragged on the quality of our students that they've hired out of this program. John, anything you'd like to say about that?
No, I think that sums it up, but I do want to pose this question to you, Pam, from the chat. So we have a student that's graduated high school at the age of 16. They've been attending Wake Tech since last summer. You know, what is the cost for this program? Because she wouldn't, or he wouldn't qualify for the particular waiver that we've been talking about. So
we have other funding that we can use. Matter of fact, we have about 5 funding streams at this point. So really we look at the individual student, and depending on their circumstance, there are federal grants that are available. We have state funds for scholarships that are available. We have philanthropic dollars that we can use. And so we really look at the students on a case-by-case basis, but there's certainly be a way to get you into a program with your tuition covered, more likely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It really, I hate to say it depends, but it depends on the particular career path that you would like to choose. Make sure that it's something that we do have apprenticeship opportunities for. So, pick one of those things, and we have a great resource on our website. So WakeWorks apprenticeships at waketech.edu. So you can use our website to go out there and see what types of, so you're looking at EMS. So yes, so you would be taking the non-credit EMT class. I believe one starts in January, and that would be a pre-apprenticeship and would be paid for by WakeWorks apprenticeship. So that would be covered by the scholarship to get you started as a pre-apprentice as an EMT. And once you finish that class, there's a pretty good chance that Wake County EMS will be taking a look at you as a prospect to be hired into their apprenticeship program, in which you would then be eligible to continue your education here at Wake Tech and be eligible for the Apprenticeship State Expansion Grant, which pays up to $3,000 a year towards your tuition. I hope that answers your question. Yes, I think, do we have the link, Pam, at the end of this presentation?
I believe it's at the end.
Okay. So if we don't, I'll put it in to the chat.
So I'd just like to show this because it really shows all of our possible apprenticeship partners. But I really like to emphasize that the employer takes the lead because they're basically hiring our students as registered apprentices. But we have lots of partners we work with. We look at lots of different funding opportunities. So a lot going on behind the scenes. Just some occupational sectors that we're working in: construction, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, IT, cyber. We don't have an apprenticeship yet in cybersecurity, but we are working on that. Transportation logistics, we have apprenticeships in those through GSK. One of the reasons we did all of this because our employers were telling us that they could not hire the people that they needed to do the work that they needed to do. And so we actually went to our county commissioners and worked together to formulate a plan to start the WakeWorks apprenticeship program. And John has put the WakeWorks link in the chat for the application. So you can go there, and once you fill out your application, we will start tracking you. The other thing that we knew was we have a mobility gap in Wake County. Wake County ranks 95th among the 100 largest metro areas in economic mobility. So we knew that people and families were struggling to achieve the upward mobility and they needed some help. And this was a way for us to help people get back in school, not have a huge financial commitment, get some credentials along the way, which we've embedded in all of our programs, and then to get them interviewed by our Wake County employers. And we know
let's take a quick break here. When adding more academic programs, what are the factors used to add a program of study to WakeWorks? I'll take a shot at that. So typically we are working with the businesses in our community, the Wake County community. So as businesses come forth with their biggest skills gap, if you will, or opportunity to bring in an apprentice, I then, along with others in the team, will work with the academic side of the college, and we will look at which programs best align with the opportunity that the companies have within their companies. So if it's a maintenance technician, we will look to speak to the different departments at Wake Tech, look at an existing program that exists and present that as a solution to our business partners.
But we do have the ability to be flexible in that as well. So depending on what the employer wants, we can tailor a program to their specific needs.
Can I
But
ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
So the follow-up to that is I have seen the list, and y'all are doing an amazing job. The diversity of programs, y'all are nailing it. But I am curious about like programs that are in the business and public technologies. I haven't really seen any, or many, excuse me, apprenticeships or propel that focus on those areas. So I just wanted to kind of challenge that as y'all are addressing the employers, but we know that those are areas that are growing as well, and maybe we just don't have the employers yet that are coming to our door.
Well, that's the key component there is we have to have an employer to have an apprenticeship program. So, you know,
So
and
you
they have,
don't go out and find an employer, you wait for them to come to you, is what you're saying.
well, we do both. We do outreach to, I mean, John and I make presentations all the time to employers. So we're trying to get as many diverse employers on board as we can. But the key is you have to have one employer with an approved apprenticeship program to actually have an apprenticeship.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But we know that they ensure a direct pathway to the workforce, and we've set up systems in place at Wake Tech to give our students every opportunity that they can possibly have to interview and get a job. We like to refer to this as an earn as you learn model. We've talked about all of these along the way, but they earn a national credential through the U.S. Department of Labor. They can start with the basics. We call this customized training because the company, the employer, can actually customize that training internally for that apprentice to learn all of the company specific things that they need to learn. And then we talked about that progressive wage scale, so earn as you learn pay scale. So as they progress through the apprenticeship program, their pay increases, and we have that documented on the front end. John, anything to add?
No, other than that journey worker credential is just something to build a resume and is something you carry around with you for the rest of your career. It's just like any other credential, but this one is USDOL, so the United States Department of Labor. It's in addition to all the other credentials that you'll receive as you're going through the apprenticeship programs. So a lot of the companies we're working with, they realize that apprentices are, in their words, quote unquote, green, and probably don't have any of the fundamentals when it comes to the hands-on or doing the actual job. So they are very willing to provide that on-the-job learning, which is fantastic because a lot of companies may be looking for someone with experience. In this relationship, that is already known that most of our students that are enrolled and as pre-apprentices are looking to obtain that on-the-job training. So it's a great entry point into the marketplace.
And they basically know the raises that they're going to receive every year, which is really fantastic. We talked about this already, but this is the minimum. When we say 144 hours in more academic language, that's contact hours. So that's how many hours they are physically at Wake Tech doing their classroom instruction. And then the documented 2,000 hours of on-the-job training in which they are paid by their organization. We talked about all this before, but the average starting salary upon completion of the registered apprenticeship is $24 an hour. And for a young person coming right out of high school, that's a pretty incredible, that would be the end of their wage scale, but they would start at least at minimum wage. They can never be paid less than that. Anything to add, John?
No, that's good information. I know that we may be repeating some of this, but we want to make sure that we are driving these points home with everyone. Especially love that $300,000 over your career. As we know, some folks come out of college today with lots and lots of debt and actually are starting in a hole, where these programs, you're actually coming out ahead. You're earning as you're learning. And in most cases, we've got grant funding and scholarship money to make sure that tuition is not putting you behind in some sort of financial pinch.
So John, you want to take this one?
Sure. So the WakeWorks apprenticeship program, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's great to see in writing. It pays the tuition, the fees, books, tools, in some cases, uniforms. When we're talking EMT, it's uniforms, boots, belts, badges. So it gives the apprentice every opportunity to jump over those sometimes invisible hurdles to start as an employee with different companies. So we want our apprentices to have an even playing field and be able to actually excel in their opportunity to become an apprentice, working with these companies, and remove any type of financial burden if we can, through the use of these funds that we have for our Wake County employers only. This is just a Wake County program.
So as I said, we're looking at really increasing our numbers. When we started this project, we had around 200 apprentices already in the skilled trades and manufacturing, but our goal has been really to drive that number up to 500 by the end of 2021. We'll make that goal. We started 284 apprentices in mid-August, and so we've got a lot of people in the pipeline. And of course, we want to keep adding other sectors. And there's a great question in the chat. Do the students have to live in Wake County to participate? No, they do not. They do not. But they do have to get picked up by a Wake County employer. So we're not supporting employers outside of Wake County, but students can definitely drive into Wake County. John, you want to take this one?
Yes. So with any project, and it turned out that WakeWorks was a project, but is now a actual long-term self-sustaining program, we hope. And in order to make sure that that continues over the years, we'll have to be able to measure our success. So we're measuring it every day, basically, the increased levels of employers and number of students that are participating and coming into our programs, either as pre-apprentices or following those apprenticeship training tracks. We look at the demographics of our population that's coming in, and also being hired as apprentices. And we also are measuring the wages so that we are providing those types of jobs that provide a living wage for our apprentices as we place them out in the workforce with the different companies that are participating with the apprenticeship programs. So you've got to measure, I feel, to be able to improve and know where you're at, so you'll know where your challenges lie and your opportunities lie. So this is how we're measuring our success.
So we have a question in the chat. Is education part of the apprenticeship program? Always, yes. Every apprenticeship program has some sort of related instruction that will be taking place at Wake Tech in some way, shape, or form.
And that's why we love apprenticeship at Wake Tech and why the employers love it as well. So you must complete your related instruction as well as your on-the-job training. If you drop out of either, you are no longer an apprentice, and therefore you lose all of your apprentice benefits that you've gained over time by becoming an apprentice. So you drop out of school or you're missing school, then you're going to lose your status as an apprentice. And in some companies actually will terminate those apprentices because they have dropped out of school and will not be able to continue on as apprentices and complete the program. So this is a mutual agreed upon program that both sides, we at the college provide that related instruction, the employers provide the on-the-job learning. They have to have both.
This is just a graphic of all of our partners that we're currently working with. Of course, we've mentioned Wake County a number of times, both the Wake County Board of Commissioners and Wake County EMS, Wake County Public School System. We've talked about the North Carolina Triangle Apprenticeship Program, NCTAP, our local area Workforce Development Board, and of course, Apprenticeship NC resides at the North Carolina Community College System Office, so we're continually partnering with them as well. I see we've got somebody typing in the chat, so we'll just give that a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and put up this last slide that really connects our students with academic advisors, faculty advisors, career and employment resources, wellness services, and more. I want to mention as well that we've been able to do some private fundraising to create a barrier removal fund for our WakeWorks students, so that if we have a student who gets into some kind of financial quagmire that they can't pay an important bill and it's going to keep them from coming to school, that we have some discretionary money that we can help to pay for certain things for those students. So that application is also on the WakeWorks website. We have someone in the chat. I was not sure if education, as in student teacher programs, were under the apprenticeship program, or if the apprenticeship program was focused on medical and STEM. John, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I think that the apprenticeships programs are much broader than just medical and STEM, but engineering, yes, but also skilled trades. So again, the skilled trades area is booming here in Wake County. So there are a lot of opportunities for skilled trade, both certificate and degree of skilled trades. So it goes beyond the EMT, EMS, and the science engineering type of programs as well. And Pam, did you talk a little bit about what we're doing in biopharm?
Yes, so we're actually trying to expand our horizon into the biotechnology program. So we are actually going to start WakeWorks as a pre-apprenticeship program into our biotechnology or our biopharmacy degree, of course contingent upon employers coming on board, which we think we're going to be able to do that pretty quickly in 2022. And so we will have students who will be able to go into careers like biomanufacturing technicians or clinical trial associates. We're working on those particular occupations. We have so many biopharma announcements and biotech announcements in Wake County that we know our employers are going to need our help filling all of these positions. So that is definitely one of our strategic focuses.
There's a question around marketing and digital marketing apprenticeships. At this time, we do not have any participating partners that would be able to provide the on-the-job learning for that particular occupation. But as Pam and I have been saying, we're always looking for those opportunities to partner with the businesses in our area to add that. Another question came in: when a prospective student is interested in an academic program that is in curriculum and WakeWorks, are students advised on both options, specifically by the curriculum advising? When the career coaches are assigned to the folks coming into WakeWorks, they will partner with advising. They try to help as much as they possibly can when it comes to the curriculum, but they also depend on their colleagues who are more specifically aligned with the curriculum for advisement. How do WakeWorks career coaches help prospective students decide which one is right for me? You want to take a shot at that, Pam?
It really depends on what the student interest is. And so when you fill out your WakeWorks application, as an applicant, you're able to identify what occupations you're interested in, and that really helps our career coaches narrow the focus for you.
What are the factors that would make someone better suited for curriculum program versus WakeWorks? And I'll take a quick stab at that, Pam, and then I think you can add to it. A lot of our students are in a situation where they cannot quit a job that they have. So they are earning a living and they are working during the day, or they're working different shifts. And sometimes the best thing for them is to take that workforce con ed or workforce continuing ed, as those particular classes are given twice a week during the evenings from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that might work better in their schedule. So it's 6 hours a week, twice a week, versus maybe somebody who can go to school during the day and be in the degree or diploma track. They can actually, take a day to do their complete studies, or 1 or 2 days. And it depends on what their career aspiration is. So what factors do you have? Are you looking to be a technician who does installations of air conditioning units, or building homes as a carpenter? Or are you looking to do hands-on work and then maybe become an estimator, or become a team lead or a site director, or something that may require a 2-year degree? So a lot of those particular question and answer kind of getting to know the applicant is very helpful, so that the career coaches can point, hopefully help direct the applicant to something suitable for them. I know, Pam, you would like to add to that, because that's a lot of questions a lot of times.
Yeah, I just think it's important that we do a good job of delving into what the student desires and what best suits their lifestyle. So that's really the really important role of our career coaches, which we've hired 2 very specific career coaches for WakeWorks that have come up to speed pretty quickly. But we want our career coaches to really understand the occupations that we're working with, so that they can do the correct amount of advising to the students based on the student's desire.
And the next question is, after submitting the online form, how long before we typically get back to you? It's typically a couple of days when we'll get back to you to let you know what the next steps are. In some cases, we're a bit shorthanded right now in our department. It may take a little bit longer, so please have patience with us, as there's quite a number of applications coming on a regular basis. But typically in a few days, what we'll do is lay out what your next step will be in the process, and then you'll just follow along as we continue. Typically, the next step is going to be taking what we call a TABE test. It's an assessment of your English and math skills, just to see exactly where you're at. We are able to provide help if those particular assessments don't meet the minimum requirements of whatever occupation you're pursuing. And then after that, you'll be linked up with a career coach to take you the rest of the way towards registration.
How many people have we declined for this program? We haven't turned anybody away. We won't turn anybody away. Once we tape test them, it will tell us if they have some skill deficiencies, and then we have, of course, many other resources to help them get where they need to be on that test, so that they could be successful in their coursework. So we're not turning students away.
We have another question. If a student wants to do HVAC, do they still have to apply to the college as a credit student? And do they look into the apprenticeship associated with that program? So currently we have a dual pathway for HVAC. We can go the certification route with Workforce Continuing Ed. That's a 4-year program. That's the 2 nights a week program. Or you can do the air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration, which is a 2-year degree that is probably takes about 3 years, due to the fact that we lessen the amount of classes in one semester so that they can get their work time on the job learning done as they're going to school. So it depends on the pathway they choose in HVAC, either technician with certifications, or they can go for the 2-year degree as an apprentice as well.
So it's really up to the student, which I think is an important thing to remember here, that if they want to be a technician, the apprenticeship program is a great way for them to get their technician license without, having to pay out of pocket to do that. If they want to go on the curriculum side, we can pay some of that through a scholarship, but it'll be more expensive for the student.
If they don't become an apprentice. So that's why we have these hiring events. We try to help get as many of those students positions as apprentices so they can qualify for the Apprenticeship State Expansion Grant, which would help with their tuition.
We have another question. I've taken a couple of classes already. Do they transfer on into this program, or will I have to do them over? If it's part of your required coursework in the degree program and you've made a grade of C or better, those typically will transfer, but it depends on what the subject matter is and what grade that you made in that particular class. Another question, to clarify the educational piece of WakeWorks. John, can you see that? Sorry.
Yes, so to clarify, the education piece of WakeWorks includes both non-credit and curriculum courses, depending on the program. Or is this primarily WCE or Workforce Con Ed? It depends on the occupation, and right now it's, as Pam was saying, it's not quite a 50-50 split. It's probably 60-40, 60% Workforce Con Ed classes versus the curriculum classes. It just depends on the occupation and the goals and intent of the applicant that's applying for the apprenticeship opportunity.
We've got someone typing in the chat, so we'll just see.
I will say that we have more WCE or Workforce Continuing Ed student apprentices in HVAC than we do in curriculum. But we are working on that.
So we'll wait for Laura's question.
Yeah,
what IT programs are currently active or in the works? John?
So currently we have a program for IT generalist, which is a non-credit, one class opportunity for an entry-level position with one of our participating partners. It's more like a help desk operator, if you will, or analyst. We are also working on programs with a couple of companies to look at cybersecurity and software engineering. Those are in the works for probably mid-2022. And we're working right now on the related instruction or the courses that would be considered related instruction for that career pathway as an IT, maybe a software engineer apprentice. But those are currently under construction, if you will. The one that we do have is an IT generalist, and it's one class that is, I believe it's IT service desk analyst that we have for one of our participating partners who's actually looking to hire people right now.
That's definitely a growth area for us in 2022, that and the biopharma pathway, and so more to come. As we get more employers on board, we're having some preliminary conversations right now with some great IT companies or fintech. And so we feel very confident that we're going to have some great opportunities for our students in IT. Well, that's all the questions that we have. John gave you the WakeWorks link in the chat. If you have other questions that you think of later, feel free to submit those through the WakeWorks website. And we do monitor those frequently and reply to those. And it looks like we have one more question coming in, and then we'll be at time.
We really appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy schedules to listen to Pam and I talk about apprenticeships. We love it. We're passionate about it, and we never will have enough apprenticeship opportunities. So just keep checking back with us to see as we update and continue to add those occupations.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Enjoy.